Driver's license penalties for alcohol and drug use. The impact for drivers under the age of 21. This impacts for anyone under the 21 years of age. We often think of the physical, psychological, and emotional impacts an OUI or addiction can have on anyone, not only people under 21. But we often overlook the one impact that is the biggest inconvenience for the driver as well as the driver's family, the loss of the driver's license. A driver under the age of 21 will automatically have their license suspended when there is two things: underage breathalyzer failure, underage chemical test refusal. Underage driver will be asked to consent to a breathalyzer to determine their blood alcohol level. That's called the BAC. If the underage driver registers a BAC under 0.02% or greater, the Registry of Motor Vehicles will suspend and revoke their license, their driver's permit, or their right to operate for 30 days, and that happens immediately. The arresting officer will immediately take custody of your license or your permit if issued by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Provide written notification of the suspension, which is effective immediately. Notify the RMV of the suspension, and they will suspend and revoke your license, permit, right to operate immediately. You cannot drive a car in the Commonwealth at that point. Impound the motor vehicle for 12 hours. RMV will issue a youth alcohol program assignment suspension on your license or permit, which will run 30-day suspension after failing the breathalyzer. The driver has the right to appeal the suspension before district court where the charges are pending. The suspension cannot be appealed at the RMV. In Massachusetts, obtaining a license to operate a motor vehicle is a privilege, not a right. Implied consent law states anyone who obtains a license in Massachusetts is deemed to have consented to a test of the driver's breath or blood alcohol when arrested for OUI, which means that if you have a license, you automatically have to submit to that test for a police officer. If you do refuse, there's penalties for that. Refusing to take the chemical test, the breath or the blood, is not a criminal offense, but there are administrative penalties, including suspension of the license for a period of 180 days up to life. RMV will issue a youth alcohol program suspension. The arresting officer will take custody of your permit. When written notification of the suspension on your license becomes effective immediate, impound the motor vehicle for 12 hours, and notify the RMV of the suspension within 24 hours. That usually happens immediately upon the paperwork. Suspension periods may vary by number of prior OUI offenses, including convictions or programs assignments from out of state or any other jurisdictions. The ones out of state will follow you into the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Number of prior OUIs, if it's none, it's 180 days suspension on your license. If you have one, it's 3 years. 2, 5 years. 3, it's a lifetime revocation of your license. When an underage driver is arrested for OUI and either refuses to submit a chemical test or a failed breathalyzer test, the RMV places a youth alcohol program assignment suspension on their license and the right to operate. This is in addition to the suspension time of the failed or refused test. And the suspension does not happen until after the original suspension is served. So that means that the suspensions will be concurrent. If you're under the age of 18 years old, the suspension period will be 1 year. If you do the 24D driver's education program, it'll be reduced to 6 months. If you're between the ages of 18 and 20, it's 6 months, and it'll stay at 6 months if you do the program. Mandatory suspensions as a result of a conviction for certain offenses. Any offense listed under the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 90, Section 24, which is the OUI laws. It's a first conviction, 180 suspension. Second one would be a year suspension. Motor vehicle homicide listed under Mass General Laws 9024, 180-day suspension up to a year suspension. Operating under the influence for serious injury under Mass General Law, Chapter 90, 180 up to 1 year. Possession of an open container of alcohol under Mass General Laws, 180, 1 year. And that's, again, under the age of 21. Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 9024. The first offense is 1 year suspension. Alternatively, you can do a 210-day suspension program assignment. The second offense, you'll get a 2-year suspension. You'll have to have an ignition interlock device required and pass a learner's permit exam again. The interlock is something that the registry will place into your car, and you have to blow into a tube to make sure that there's no alcohol in your breath to start your car. The third offense is an 8-year suspension, ignition interlock device, pass the learner's permit, and the road test again. Fourth offense, we have a 10-year suspension, the ignition interlock, pass the learner's permit, and a road test. And the fifth offense would be lifetime suspension. The underage alcohol violations. A minor can be arrested for possession of alcohol at any time. The following table is a list of the suspension periods for more common underage alcohol violations. Purchasing or attempting to purchase alcohol, it's a 180-day suspension on your license. Possessing alcohol, 90-day suspension. Transporting or carrying alcohol unaccompanied by a parent or guardian, 90-day suspension. Procuring alcohol for an individual under the 21 years of age, 180-day suspension. That would be for the parents. If you provide alcohol to a party, your son or daughter graduates high school, you have a graduation party, you provide alcohol, you can lose your license for 180 days. We're going to go over minors under 21 in the possession of marijuana. It is illegal for minors under the age of 21 to possess marijuana privately or publicly. 2 ounces or less gets a $100 civil fine. Under 18 offenders must also attend a drug awareness and perform community service. You sell or intend to sell any amount of marijuana anywhere, the potential penalty is immediate arrest, up to 2 years of jail, and a fine up to $5,000. Operate under the influence of marijuana. Medical marijuana or illegal possession are no defense. No driver may be high to any degree that diminishes their ability to operate safely. Potential penalties, immediate arrest and 2-year probation, education program, license suspension, at least 90 days, and probably for 1 year. The fines and fees, at least $500. Open container of marijuana in the vehicle, any package with marijuana or marijuana products with the seal broken or some contents removed within a passenger compartment. Potential penalties of $500, a civil ticket, and the passengers of any age. If you are under the age of 18 and you are found with marijuana by the police officer, you do have to provide a Commonwealth of Massachusetts testing, and you'll have to go to a class, of a youth class. You will issue a fine. If the student or the child under 18 does not provide that class, the parent becomes liable and you will be fined up to $1,000. Barnstable High School alcohol and drug penalties. School rules, including all school-sponsored activities. There's no distribution, possession, and the Barnstable High School breath alcohol testing policy. Alcohol use by a student is illegal, possess a serious threat not only to his or her own well-being, but the well-being of the community. Drug or alcohol will not be tolerated during school hours, on school property, or at any school-sponsored activity during or after school hours. That's kind of like the dances and the school football games, soccer games, and whatever have you. When determining possible alcohol use or intoxication by a student during the school day or at a school-related function, the safety of the student is the primary concern. An assessment of the student suspected of the alcohol use may be aided by the use of a breathalyzer alcohol device, and that would be provided by the administration.